What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Bartu with another episode of Pilltalkpodcast, giving you a daily dose of medicine to inspire, motivate, and live at your full potential. Today, we have a special guest, Dr. Nancy Joseph, the dynamic doc, who's double board certified in pediatrics and allergy and immunologist. But she specializes in allergy. But no further ado, Dr. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I am well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Man, glad you could come on. I think this is my first time having someone on who is a doctor of allergy and an immunologist. So this will be a great episode to enlighten the people about that profession so that they can understand about that a little more, because I don't think we talk about that one too much. So you'll be the one that's fronting it, walking through the gates, opening it up for others.
Listen, I'm glad to be a conduit, a trailblazer, or whatever I need to be to open up the doors of awareness for the field of allergy and immunology, especially as a Black person, Black female in that field.
Thank you. Because as you say on your website, we aspire to inspire. So let's get it.
Yes.
All right. So let's just jump in and get to know you a little bit before we get into your profession. How did you get started, or what sparked the light for you to become a pediatrician and then transfer over to an allergist?
So for me, of course, I've wanted to be a doctor since I was young. And then when I was in high school, I explored other fields in the healthcare field, just kind of making sure this is what I wanted to do. And sure enough, I was like, yeah, definitely want to be a physician. And then I've just always loved kids. And so it literally just made sense in my spirit and my soul. When I did my pediatric rotation as a medical student, it just confirmed this is definitely the specialty I want to go into. So I went into pediatrics. And for those who don't know, in the medical world, you start off, of course, pre-med, or you don't actually have to start off pre-med. You start off taking prerequisites to get into med school. You take your medical school entrance exam. And then when you go into medical school, you rotate with different types of specialties to really decide, what do I want to do? Where do I feel like I fit in? What do I see myself? Which specialty do I feel like I can really see myself doing? And so going into it, a lot of times, many go into med school wanting to be a particular specialty, and then they go out, when by the time they graduate, they're in something completely different. So the key is to remain open. That's really the key to life. Through med school, I decided this is definitely what I want to do. So when I got into residency in pediatrics, I was glad that, hey, this is what I wanted to do. This is great. I had a good time. Listen, us pediatricians, we have a good time. We have fun. That's kind of, the kind of who we are as pediatricians. We, you'll always have, see some of us with the colorful ties or the colorful outfits. We're just really usually pretty jolly people. And then, but in residency, I decided that I wanted to subspecialize. And so I was already specialized in pediatrics, but I decided to subspecialize. And in medicine, you do that through a fellowship. And so in med school, I liked the study of immunology. And then in residency, I got a chance to get exposure to the practice of allergy. And I liked it. And so I was like, okay. And I had talked to a friend at the time, and he had suggested, maybe you should look into allergy immunology. And again, liked it. And I went into fellowship for that and never looked back since. And I definitely wouldn't see myself doing any other specialty or subspecialty, I should say, than allergy immunology. So I like that field.
Nice. But yeah, back to you being a pediatrician and y'all having bubbly personalities and energy. I can definitely tell that by you. Good energy. So how long was the transition from being a pediatrician to being an allergist? Was it something as soon as you became one, you were like, all right, start the fellowship to start the journey to become another? Or did you get board certified in other? What was that like?
So usually you finish residency, so my 3 years of residency is when I was a pediatrician, a pediatric residency. And then you'll go right into fellowship. While you're in fellowship, like during your first year, you take your board exam. So then while you're in fellowship studying allergy immunology, you're also at some point during that first year studying for your board certification exam for pediatrics. Anything in medicine you do, you have to have a like this long, like full-time job, 8 hours exam after it. So when the shortest exam that you'll have in your career is probably the MCAT, which is 5 hours. At least when I took it, it was 5 hours. And that's the shortest one you'll have. Go ahead and cherish that because you won't have that again. So then when you were in med school, there's a series of 3 exams. If you're in DO like myself, they're called COMLEXs. If you're an MD, they're called USMLE. And those are 8 hours. Literally, there's a lunch break in between. And then there's 3 of those. And then the second one has 2 parts. If you're an MD, the third one has 2 parts too. But anyway, and then that's med school. And then when you do your residency, that's when you become board certified. So then there's like a board of individuals that's come up with a standardized exam for them to say, you know what, he or she has learned what we feel like he or she should have learned as a pediatrician, as an allergist, immunologist, that type of thing. So when you decide to subspecialize, that you put yourself in a position where you need 2 boards. So when I was starting my training for allergy immunology, I took my pediatric board exam. Then I was a board certified pediatrician, and you can't be a board certified subspecialist until you're board certified specialist. So until I was board certified in pediatrics, I couldn't then sit for my boards for allergy immunology. So once I did that and I finished my training or I was finishing my training for allergy immunology, and I took another set of boards, and then that was allergy and immunology. So even though I'm a pediatrician, I see, contrary to what one might believe, I see both adult and pediatrics in the realm of allergy and immunology. I'm one of the few specialties that does that is allergy and immunology. A lot of times, if you want to be a cardiologist and you do a pediatric residency, you then become a pediatric cardiologist. That's usually how it goes. But the world of allergy immunology is such that you can come into it as an adult doctor, or you can come into it as a pediatric doctor. But when you get trained in both adult and pediatrics. So right now, I see both adults and pediatrics, but I only see adults in the context of an allergic or immunological disease.
Okay. So,
and then after fellowship, you become an attending, AKA, a boss lady that's no longer in training. You're a doctor all along, but you no longer have to get like signed off by any like person. Like you're not overseen.
Yeah. You become your own. I won't say your own boss, but you don't have to get signed off. I do have a question.
and then there's no more graduation. I'm sure my family was like, when I graduated from fellowship, my mother was like, so we're good though now, right? Like you're not graduating from anything else? Because she's been to every single graduation I've ever had since kindergarten. So, and then when I started my medical training, traveling was involved. Because in high school, you're graduating your town. Yeah. And in college, I was 45 minutes away from home. But then med school started. She traveled for that. Then residency then she traveled for that. Then fellowship, then she traveled for that. She was like, here's the thing. My love is unconditional, but these miles are not. That's just.
Tell her, look at them like mini vacations.
You said, my mom has been in the game of working for a while. She got vacation. She just, the energy, she's just like, I got to keep traveling. You've collected enough accolades. I think we're good.
That's fine. So since you see pediatricians and adults have the training and the energy to see peds help you with seeing adults as well, because I think, but I know in my field as a pharmacist, some adults give off the same traits as kids, and you kind of have to teeter the line and talk to them. And I don't say as a child, but childish like ways. Like, has that helped you?
No, I don't know that I've used any particular skills like as a pediatrician that's been like, thank God I'm a pediatrician because now I will say what's helpful is the ability to see both their kids and them, right? Because sometimes I'll be seeing a child because of whatever, like food allergy or seasonal allergy, or what is thought as food allergy or a concern thereof. And then while I'm talking to, mom about the child, she's like, maybe I need to come and see you. You see? Or sometimes they'll see me and then they'll be like, do you see kids? And I'll be like, yeah. And they'll be, I will say that because I was a pediatrician first, I am more comfortable with my pediatric patients. So there is a level of, I already, you know what I mean? Like I'm used to what's going to happen when I have a 3-year-old in the room, or what's going to happen when I have a 2-year-old in the room. So there are certain things I'm not as bothered by as someone that maybe is used to only seeing adults until they got in the world of allergy and immunology. And so when they're just like, and touching everything obvious, I'm not as like, but also, and that comes in handy a lot on exams, right? Like doing an exam in an 18-month-old is not a cakewalk because the moment you like go close to them, they're just like, this lady's coming close. I don't like this. And so as someone who has years of experience knowing the proper like techniques to get the information that I need from a physical exam standpoint, I'm usually like, okay, hold them this way. And then I'm just going to take a look and then whatever. And so that's really helpful in both building the confidence of the parent and being able to get the information that I need. And so that's been very, very helpful in that realm.
All right. I'm glad you started speaking a little bit about the profession of it. So what are some of the more common cases you get with kids and adults that's coming in with allergies?
So, well, then let's start off by saying like, what is the world of allergy and immunology? I find that it is when I throw the I word, everybody's like, wait, what does this mean? But if I say I'm an allergist, people are like, oh, okay. But if I say I'm an allergist immunologist, then people are just like, wait. So I think a lot of people, of course, are more used to the term allergy. But then when you jump and when the immunology gets into it, they're just like, So I'll start with what immunology is and then jump from that. So allergy and immunology kind of are very intertwined, which is why they are one specialty and like together. But the system, your immune system is really the system that fights infection. And so when that is not doing its job, whether it's overdoing what it's supposed to do or deficient, you see someone like me. So for example, if you're immune deficient, that would be someone who is immune system fights infection. So if you're immune deficient, you would see me in order for me to try to figure out which part of your immune system is deficient, which part has petered out, why, that type of thing. So people who get recurrent infections would see me. People who, on the flip side, a lot of times people who have undergone chemo, what happens with chemotherapy is that it attacks obviously the bad cells, but in general, a lot of cells that are helpful, including your immune system. So one of the common things that happen with chemotherapy is that your immune system decreases. Or there's a lot of other therapies that just kind of are, they decrease your immune system, which then can lead you to be such decrease that you're immune deficient. And then you would see someone like me kind of in conjunction to whatever other treatment you're getting. And then on the plus side or the other side, anytime people's systems kind of do their own thing, sometimes it can cause issues. Like I see a condition called angioedema, AKA it's a fancy way of saying swelling, but not just any type of swelling. It's like a deep swelling. A lot of times those people would just have like, sometimes you'll have unexplained episodes of lip swelling, unexplained episode of facial swelling, unexplained episodes of tongue swelling. I'd see those. Sometimes people get hives. Those are all your body just doing its own thing. They decided this is where I'm at today. This is the mood I'm in. So I am going to be swelling today. And then you would see someone like me to get both guidance and management of that particular thing. So that's the immune side. The allergy side, obviously a little bit more self-explanatory. So within the realm of allergy, you can be allergic to a myriad of things, from food allergy to drug allergy to seasonal allergies or environmental allergies, that type of thing. So I see all of that. So usually if there's a suspicion of an allergy by your primary care doctor, they send you to me to further evaluate that. So that is what I do on a day-to-day basis. In addition to that, commonly or frequently, I should say, I see asthma. Asthma is one of those. So a lot of times people's allergy practices will be like allergy and asthma and associates, or allergy and immunology and, allergy, immunology and asthma, or allergy immunology associates, which includes asthma. But asthma is a very, very common thing that I see, as is eczema. Because contrary to popular belief, asthma can definitely be triggered or associated with your seasonal allergies. Because some people are like, I'm fine, but if it's spring, I wheeze a lot. What's that about? Yeah. It's like, hi there, your friendly neighborhood allergist here. Looks like you need to talk to me. So that would be, in general, the nuts and bolts of what I do.
All right, great. So I think you kind of touched on it, but what are the more common cases that you get to see coming into your office with the peds and or adults?
So what is common in peds and what's common in adults are different in the realm of allergy immunology and where they usually go. So starting again with immunology first, there's a lot of immunological diseases that you get that you're born with. For example, one thing people commonly maybe are familiar with is the SCID, which is like the people see Bubble Boy all the time. That's David Vedder from a while back, when he was like one of the first children that had the severe combined immunodeficiency, which is what SCID stands for. And that's when, again, there's different arms of your immune system, but when more than one arm is impaired, that's when you get the combined immunodeficiency. But those kids are usually sick from the beginning. So usually you'll be, I work in private practice, so I don't typically see those kids because they would have been plugged in with a large medical center since they were little, because they've been, they've had to have very meticulous medical management since they were like little, because from infancy, they were realized to have an immunodeficiency. So then that management is more specific. When I got training, I did hospital work and all that stuff. So, but in private practice, I don't typically see that. But I do have people who, let's say they're like in their 20s and they're just like, man, I don't know, since I was a child, I've had, whatever, ear infections, but even as an adult, I continue to have them. So it's like, ooh, that's not normal. So maybe we should talk about that. So, but I would say in general and private practice, the most common thing I see in kids is food allergy, followed by eczema, followed by seasonal allergy. So that's that. And then in adults, the most common concern I have is food allergy. But they may not necessarily be diagnosed with food allergy by the time I finish talking about them. They just may be worried. So I would say adverse food reactions. One of my very, a common nugget that's near and dear to my heart is all food reactions are not allergic reactions. In the world of allergy, in the world of adverse food reactions, just a fancy way of saying when you eat a food, something bad happens. Allergy is one of them, but there's other things that it could be. So I fall into the allergic category, but I see adults a lot that have concerns for an adverse food reaction. I see adults that have had asthma maybe since they were kids. And then they were like, yeah, I was okay when I was a teenager. It was just exercise. But then now I'm getting worse. And my doctor's kind of like, yeah, we need you to see somebody. So asthma is commonly I see in adults. Adverse food reaction I commonly see in adults, and definitely seasonal allergies, because they may be dealing with that since they were like young, and they're just like, I think I'm interested in allergy shots. Yeah. So I see them a lot for that too.
Great. So I had a story like I had an allergy or adverse reaction to something, to sunscreen. I had to go see an allergist.
Mhm.
And and that was very informative and like helped me through the process because I ended up having like angioedema and things like that to get to when I realized like, oh man, like something's really going on here. Like not knowing that I was allergic to sunscreen. I guess because I never put it on and I finally put it on one time and it was just probably the worst thing I've done on a vacation.
Oh
Um,
no.
I know I was having a great time into that, but the person that helped me made like a major impact. And now I can go on vacations and I know what to use, what not to use, things to avoid. Is there a situation or scenario where someone came in having an adverse reaction and then you were able to impact their lives and they were able to move forward? Like, yo, I'm glad I came to see the dynamic doc today because she helped me out. Do you have an
Well,
example?
yeah, well, my patients don't know me as a dynamic doc, but yes. No, that happens quite frequently because one of the largest things that I do as part of my job is educate. Treating is definitely a part. It kind of comes with the job. But one of the biggest things that I do is educate because oftentimes I find that patients come into my office with a particular diagnosis in their mind. I'm seeing the allergist because I have an allergy. I'm here for you to tell me what I'm allergic to. And I'm like, let's just talk for a second. And then let us just kind of unpack what symptoms you have and why you think it's allergic related, right? Because I have patients that come to me that are unnecessarily restricting themselves in terms of foods because they've because of worry, not because someone's told them they're allergic, but because they've decided upon themselves that they're allergic, and then they then therefore cut out this food, whatever it may be, from gluten to soy to whatever else. And both of which are very large, like ubiquitous ingredients in a lot of things. So if you cut out those types of foods, then there's a level of quality of life that decreases with that. And then there is a level of fear, So I deal with that in terms of like educating them because they're like, I don't want to eat. Like if you have angioedema, and maybe something happened where they happened to be eating something, but then it happened 3 more times where they weren't eating, but then they're like, maybe it's food, but it's still food. Commonly people have symptoms that are not food, they're not food allergy or not allergic, but they just assume it is because they're not aware that it can be other things that are not allergic. That then, so it's common that I am like, hey, this is not allergic, and these are the reasons. These are the typical characteristics of an allergy, and it is not that. Therefore, you can go back to living your best life and eating, insert food here or food group. And then, but in meantime, I think it's this. We're going to check you for this, but I don't think you need to worry about such and such because of this reason. And I'm telling you, you don't need to have this test. And then there's other things over the counter that people, or usually if you're suffering from something, I get a lot of patients who suffer from gastrointestinal issues that then they're just like, it must be something. And so they just kind of see different specialists, allergists included. Oftentimes you're sitting, dealing with your symptoms or whatever is going on with you. It just so happens that's when that commercial comes on that makes you feel like you need to buy that, whatever that product is, that test, so you can get it done. But unbeknownst to you, there's absolutely no professional that's reading that test. They're just going to snatch up your money. And so you take it and now you don't know what to do with it because no one suggested it. No one recommended it. And so now you're like, I should see an allergist. And so, so a lot of my job is education and letting people and putting people's minds at ease that you don't have to avoid this food or you're not this and this. And sometimes people may feel alone because no one I know has this. Angioedema, for example. What is this? Like, I was fine living my life. Now my lips are swelling. What is this? Like, and you may feel alone because no one else has it. And then you're just like, have you seen this before? Sometimes I often get that question. Is this crazy? Have you ever seen something like this before? And I'm like, yep. or a lot of people have hives. People assume if I have hives, it must be for something. But commonly, one of the most common cause of hives is called idiopathic, aka no cause. Your body can make its own decision at any given time. I tell my patients all the time, our bodies do their thing and we're along for the ride. You treat it right, but at the end of the day, there's so many intricate things that have to go right in your body that there are things that can go wrong. There's many checkpoints that it has and keeps itself together, but there's ways that things can go wrong. And if it does, guess what? You're just along for the ride. And my job is to educate you about it and help you with that journey. And sometimes you may not be able to find the reason for it, but may be able to find coping mechanisms, treatments to help during the time. So sometimes it's just saying, like for me, I have chronic idiopathic hives as well. So I can be like, nope, yeah, that's just no reason. But you don't think there's a nope, because I would have found it already for myself. And they're like, I guess you're right. I mean, you see this? I'm just like, yep, all the time. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, that makes me feel better. You know what I mean? Because because it's not like a random, like, never seen this before. Now I don't know what to do with that. All right, let's try such and such. It makes them feel better that you're like, nope, not only have I studied this, I see this and I take care of people like this all the time.
Mm-hmm. But that's good that, like you said, your number one thing is educating your patients, because the more educated they are, the better, easy and at ease they feel. And they're able to like go back to living like a normal life. Because that's what we're all trying to get back to, is living normal, not taking foods out of our system or out of our diet for no reason, whatever. So that's really good on that part. So got a couple more questions to go for you.
Sure.
The next one, like a work-life balance. I know being a allergist and an immunologist is difficult, seeing so many people and patients, and you're probably having to take work home. So how do you find a nice work-life balance?
What balance? I don't know what you're... What? I just said, what? I don't, if I'm going to be very honest, but I frequently say balance is to be maintained, not obtained. Much like a tightrope walker must check themselves at various points at all times. Nobody gets on the tightrope and they're good throughout the entire walk. You must always double check this, check that. So as things jump in and out of your life from personal to professional, you must always recheck and check again. Some days are better than others. Some days I'm able to get back home at a decent time. We'll just spare you the details of what my regular decent time may be. That's a whole different story. But some days are more tiring than others, depending upon the complexities of patients I saw, and then sometimes maybe you're seeing complex patients, but then also like stuff is going on in your personal life. And then like, it's a little like stormy and you're just like, okay, Lord, Jesus be a fence, an umbrella, and a raincoat. But sometimes it's cool. Like, okay, these are things that I've seen. All right, cool. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're able to do what you usually set out to do. Like, okay, I meal prepped. I went to work. I got this done. I finished my notes. I came home. I had time to like decompress and have me time and go to sleep. And I'd actually called, this person back, my mom back. And like, there are times when you feel like things that are happening as they're supposed to. And there's other times when you're like, yep, didn't get to that today. Oh, didn't get enough sleep this week. Yeah. So no, I think balance is something that's definitely difficult. It's definitely not something I've mastered or even gotten to a point of becoming proficient. But I think it's because as an early career physician, there's still a lot of growth happening in my life, both in and out of the clinic, right? Including my brand. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are transition points and that are learning curves, and that they're just things that will add a little difference in your life. Like, oh shoot, I gotta fit this in. All right, so now that I'm doing that, how do I establish a new norm? How do I establish a new equilibrium? Just like when people had to start teaching their own kids and do like school from home, like, okay, you might have had like, kind of like being on a unicycle. Everything is good, right? But then if somebody throws you an object, just like the clown on a unicycle, then you have to find a new balance with that extra object. And then you're good for a little while. And then there's another object. And even if you put one of those objects down, now you have to get another. So that's just kind of how balance works. It always continues to be checked. And you're never like set it and forget it.
That's a great answer. I like that. A lot of people try to go with like a general answer. Like, I feel like you really touched home with that one, letting people know that it's all right to keep checking yourself. Like, everything won't be 50-50, 25-75, whatever. You just got to keep finding your balance throughout the day, weeks or whatever.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll have storms. Like sometimes you'll have days where you're like, I just can't. And you know what? That's okay. Because sometimes taking life one day at a time sometimes is too much. And I've said, I've said before, if you can't take it one day at a time, take it an hour at a time. If you can't take it an hour at a time, take it a minute at a time. As long as you keep on moving, progress is more important so it doesn't matter. If you have to take little bitty steps today, because that you said little bitty step type day, that's fine. That's fine. Because, as long as you don't give up on the day and you're just like, you know what, today, I have to be very compartmentalized today. Otherwise, I'm going to feel too overwhelmed and then I'll shut down and nothing to get done. So instead of like, feeding that energy, just being like, okay, answering all 1,500 of these emails today would be a little too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skim them and the people and the things that need to be done at this very moment that people are just like, we need to meet tomorrow. Can you come? Then you'll do it. But otherwise, you're just like, okay, I'm going to feed the dog. I'm going to feed the kids. I'm going to sleep. And sometimes you just need to be like, yeah, no to all of this because my mind needs to rest. And that's all right. Because instead of pushing, sometimes we're so used to pushing through, we don't know how to take a break.
Yeah. Man, I like that. All right, my last question for you. Not even a question, just want to get some of your information. You mentioned your brand. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that my audience know more about your brand and then more on how they can get to it. So first, let's talk about your brand and then we'll end it with how they can find you on social media. So let's talk about the brand, the Dynamic Doc.
The Dynamic Doc was birthed out of me in my multidimensionality and my yearning to connect with others that are also multidimensional, because I don't feel like that particular aspect of people is nurtured. I feel as if people are one thing, or at least society would know a person as one thing, label them as such, and then they will only see them in the context of that thing. And that may not be the totality of that person, but that is the box that society has put you in. Because largely people can only digest individuals in one particular aspect. That's kind of how it is. If you notice, let's take Wayne, for example. As we can see, Wayne skateboards, but he also raps and he also does, he's like an artist, right? They do a lot of things. However, he came into the game as a rapper, and as he's a rapper, that's what he is. But now he's known as that, and he can throw other parts of him in. So if Wayne decided he wanted to come out, featured on a rock record, people would be able to digest that because they have like, okay, Wayne is a rapper, but he also does this. Okay. Childish Gambino, also an artist, but he's like, but I also produce, like I do that. So I think as a professional, and you may want that as a pharmacist, as when we're like a pharmacist, a doctor, engineer, a lot of times people are like, this is who you are. Like there's a whole big hashtag that my colleagues up in arms about, because this whole like stay in your lane hashtag. And we're like, this is our lane. We're, and people are just kind of like, this is who you are. And many of us, that is not the totality of who we are. So having been in a particular phase in my career where I was nearing the end of my formal training, but there were so many pieces of me. Shout out to Lettucey. It's my favorite song, one of my favorite songs of hers, Pieces of Me. There are multiple pieces of a human being. And a lot of times people are like, why you gotta do other things? You're like, this is who you are. And you're just like, well, what happens to the other parts of me and the other dreams of me? They shrivel up like a raisin in the sun, right? As you may know, like as you go through like rigorous medical training, there are parts of you that take a back seat. And sometimes we can forget that part of us. But that's still us. That's who you are. That makes you feel whole. And you don't, it's easier to take care of others if you've already taken care of yourself and you're a whole person. Who wants to take care of someone with just pieces of yourself? And so I created that brand in order to provide a safe space for multidimensional individuals to completely wholeheartedly be, and inspire others who are scared to live in the other parts of themselves to really be like, look, others want it. Don't feel bad, because I feel like oftentimes we are made to feel bad that we want other things, like as if you cannot possibly do, like you can't do both. You can't, someone I know is an engineer, but he's also a really bomb DJ. But then he was like, but then, when you're really good at whatever, you'll get a lot of like, you'll get a lot of recognition. But then he was like, well, I don't know how to receive all this, like more like recognition and awareness and stuff as a DJ, because then I don't want to take away from me being an engineer. And it's just like, but it's okay to be both.
Yeah.
But oftentimes society makes us believe that if you are a doctor, then that is who you are. What do you mean you're a doctor and you also want to be Miss America? What do you mean you want to be a doctor and you want to be a vlogger or a blogger or a travel? What do you mean? Okay, so you see patients, you make good money, whatever that means, but you want to do a podcast. But why? Like, this is good enough. Like, look like you're doing it. What else do you want to do? And I think that I tell people, like, everyone is here for a purpose, and somebody else's purpose is tied into you living out yours. So it's not about you. It's about the reaction, the catalyst that you are meant to be. So if you just sit and you're not the catalyst, you have all this potential, but no direction. As you know, in physics, vector equals a direction. And there's a lot of people sitting on potential, but it means nothing if there's no direction. So yeah, my brand was kind of birthed out of me wanting to live a life on purpose, for a purpose, and wanting to nurture different sides of me. So that is what the Dynamic Doc is about. And out of that has come these different projects or different parts that I am developing one at a time. I'm learning the art of patience. Pray for me. And I started off with my YouTube channel, which is talking about my journey into medicine, and then currently have the How Do You Medicine podcast, because medicine is more than just doctors. First of all, medicine is more than just physicians. Medicine is an entity that includes different parts and different people. And so this How Do You Medicine podcast is for healthcare professionals doing healthcare their way. And that looks different. So I just wanted to highlight and promote, highlight and celebrate these individuals that are doing medicine in a way, or doing healthcare in a way outside of your typical four walls of a clinic, or clinic, or even a retail pharmacy, or a hospital. That's what we're used to seeing, but that's really like a small portion of what it means to be a healthcare professional. And so that's what my podcast is about, talking to these dynamic, phenomenal individuals. So to answer your question about where to find me, you can find me on everything at The Dynamic Doc. You must put the in. So thedynamicdoc.com, The Dynamic Doc on IG, The Dynamic Doc on YouTube, The Dynamic Doc also on Facebook. So I am all things The Dynamic Doc. If you don't see a little face that look like this, that ain't me.
Great. I'm glad you was able to let the people know, one, about your website, your YouTube and all of that, so that they can be able to come there and be able to open up. Like, everyone is like an onion. We all have layers, and we all need to be able to express and show those layers. So Glad that you're doing this for that. And also letting doctors come onto your YouTube channel and show how they do medicine, because we all don't practice in the same way. We all
and not even just doctors, like health professionals in general, because I have someone from public health that's on there now. I have a dentist, and then have other people down the line. But I didn't want it to just be physicians, because doing medicine, more people do medicine than physicians, just physicians. It's just what we're used to. I'm just trying to expand people's healthcare palettes.
You have to. Same over here. But man, this wraps up this episode of Pill Talk Podcast. Dr. Nancy Joseph, I'm really excited and glad that you were able to make it to Pill Talk Podcast for this episode. Giving everyone some inspiration to motivate, live, and aspire at their full potential. You can find her on all social media handles at The Dynamic Doc. If you don't see her face, you're on the wrong channel.
That's right.
You already know. But thank you again for coming on Pill Talk and sharing your story and all your information. Appreciate you.
No, thanks for having me. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.